I had a meeting with my rehab team today. And by the way, before I get into the video, if you're wondering why the background for the last couple of videos has been different, is because I recorded all three videos on the same day. And my normal spot is at the moment right in the sun. Even now, you can already see like there's sun shining here. So, you know, hopefully this video won't be too long, otherwise I'll be blinded. But yeah, that's why things are slightly different than normal, in case you were wondering. I still made sure to, change slightly what I'm wearing just so it looks a little different in every video, not because I care if people think like, "Oh, I wore the same clothes for multiple days," simply because from a, you know, video screenshot standpoint, it can be confusing sometimes if the video, like the thumbnail for all three videos, looks the same, even though the title is different. So, I do kind of make a small effort to have things be slightly different in every video. So it's not like the almost exactly the same thumbnail multiple videos in a row. So, give me a little credit. I do a little work. So anyway, as I was saying, met with the rehab team today, and whenever I do, I meet with four people. Four, sorry. There's obviously my rehab doctor. There's the nutritionist. There's the physiotherapist, and there's the ergotherapist. And I meet with each one by turn, and each one has a obviously specific occupation, so they can make different recommendations and stuff like that. So today I started by meeting with my nutritionist. So I explained my current situation, how I've been struggling to eat, and I recently started a more liquid diet with ensure protein shakes and stuff like that. And it's been making me kind of throw up. By the way, I haven't really shared this in the videos simply because at this point, like, I've thrown up so many times that it's like it feels like old news, even though it's not, because like I'm throwing up now. I'm not talking about the throw up that I did like 3 months ago, but still, like, it's happened so much that I at this point, like, unless it happens a lot in a short period, I tend to just not mention it. But yeah, over the last week since I started the liquid diet, like, I can tell that my body has a hard time assimilating the Ensure, and a lot of the times I end up throwing up. So I'm still playing around with that, trying to find the correct solution. So I explained all that to my nutritionist, and asked if there was any tips or anything like that that I could do, making sure that it's fine, that it's mostly liquid diet and everything, and pretty much explain the entire situation. And she didn't really have that much to say, but one thing she did suggest is, because my body, the later it gets in the day, the more difficult it is for me to, one, force myself to eat food, or two, drink liquid food, and the higher the odds that I will throw up as a result of that. She suggested, try in that period, of the day when you are able to eat and you generally don't throw up, to maximize your food consumption within that period. And then for the rest of the day, try sipping Ensure instead of drinking like an entire bottle at a time. So that's something I'm going to try out. But yeah, aside from that, it was more like me explaining the situation to her, explaining what I'm doing, and making sure that everything is fine. So, my new approach seems to be a good approach, as long as I can find a way for my body to tolerate the Ensure, then I'm ensured that everything will be good. See what I did there? See, so it's like, days suck sometimes, but I can still fit in a joke every once in a while. So it could be worse. So that's pretty much it for the nutritionist. Then next, I saw my doctor, and that was a much more complex conversation. Complex in the sense of me having to remember everything he said, because, given everything that's happened over the last month and a half, there was a lot of recommendations he had for me, new medication he wanted to prescribe, things like that. So I'm going to cover that. And that's why I'm saying it's more of, of a challenging conversation, because I have to remember everything that he says so I can explain it in this video. So when it comes to the breathing and coughing issues, he prescribed a medication. I'm not even going to attempt to remember the names. So I apologize in advance for that. I'm just going to explain the type of medication it is and what it's going to do. So yeah, when it comes to breathing, unfortunately, there's nothing really we can do because it's like, well, if you have breathing issues, then it's hard for you to walk and exercise, which would help with the breathing issues. So it's like I'm stuck in this vicious cycle. So in order to get out of that, one of the solutions is to trick the body into not making you aware of that. So it won't help my situation, but it will keep me from feeling like I'm out of breath. And that will allow me to expand my, breathing, if you will. Because now it's like the second I start doing something physical, I just get out of breath super quick. So it's like my range is super small. With this, because I'm not aware of it, well, it kind of like opens it up because it allows me to do more because I'm not aware that I'm out of breath. So it doesn't fix the issue, but it keeps me from being aware of it, which will allow me to start walking again, to start working out again, which will in turn start to help and fix the actual problem. So that's kind of, the approach we've taken for that for now. He did prescribe that. Within the next few days, my pharmacy should call me to say, hey, we got these, new prescriptions. Do you want us to prepare it and everything? So, there's a few new ones. So it might take like, a couple days or a week or something for me to be able to like slowly add everything, especially since I started the new immunotherapy 2 days ago and the new pills that come with that. And now I'm adding a bunch more meds. It's like, let's make sure that we add them because they're important, but not too quickly because we don't want to overwhelm you. So on the breathing front, that's kind of been the approach. It's also going to help for the coughing, which is going to be good, hopefully for the cough, for the throwing up, because even though it's like, yeah, okay, my body has a hard time um, tolerating the Ensure, but what causes me to throw up inevitably is when I start coughing, and sometimes it gets a little too intense, and that's what triggers the throwing up. So it's like, even though my body has a hard time with the Ensure, it's not like, oh, I drink it and throw up. It's like I drink it and then my stomach is kind of like sensitive. And if I cough a little too much for a certain period after, well, then I throw up as a result of that. So helping with the cough as well will also definitely be a benefit. Plus, it's easier to work out, it's easier to walk, it's easier to do physical activities when you're not constantly coughing. I knew it was going to happen every time I talk about coughing, I end up coughing. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the breathing/coughing front. On a quickly unrelated front, I've been taking testosterone for a while, and I'm taking minimal dose. I think it's like 2.5 milligrams, and we're going to increase that to 5 because my testosterone levels are still low, and that's important when you're trying to regain muscle and weight and stuff like that. So in my condition, it's like it's good at least temporarily to raise that level to make sure that those testosterone levels kind of like not necessarily go back to normal, but at least enter the normal range. So that's not really a new medication, it's just kind of an adjustment to an old one. And then on the eating front, the appetite front, there's two things he prescribed. First one is just like a medication that's pure THC. So in like the gummies and stuff like that, and most products at the SQDC and things like that, this is much more concentrated, but also a lower dose because I explained to him like, hey, I tried gummies and everything. It's like my body just does not respond well to weed. And like the effects on my body are just like very intense. So he's like, I want to start you off very, very low and then slowly increase to see if it can help with the appetite without you having to deal with all the side effects. So he prescribed that, be starting that soon. As well as the other thing he prescribed for the appetite, it's basically a medication that helps you digest faster. So it's like it makes sure that everything goes through your system quickly. That way it's not like, oh, I'm eating and then the food like gets in my stomach and it just takes a long time to process because my body's weak and it's fighting the cancer and it's doing all the other things. So digestion just like takes longer. So by using this medication, it's going to help quicken that process. and the faster I can digest and move everything through my digestive system, well, then the higher the odds that I'll be hungry. And even if I'm not hungry, well, I can better tolerate eating more, and potentially it could help also with the insurer, because maybe that's why my body has a hard time tolerating it, because even though it's like, yes, it's mostly liquid, it still needs to be digested. And if it gets to my stomach and my stomach is already full, well, then of course, like, it's easier for me to throw up. And maybe that's why when I cough, sometimes it's like, oh, that was a little too much coughing. And, here comes the chunks. So, it's kind of like everything working together in conjunction to try to fix everything. Because at the moment, it's like, it's been like this one thing that affects the next, that affects the next, that affects the next in a negative way. We're trying to set everything up, all these different medications and this different way of doing things to have that same effect, but inverted. It's like, oh, well, this is helping this, that's helping this, that's helping this, that's helping this. And things slowly start getting better instead of slowly continue getting worse. So that's kind of really the new strategy we're going with. So that's pretty much it in terms of, new meds and stuff like that. So I'm going to be, slowly integrating that over the next week or so, trying not to overwhelm my body, see what happens in terms of side effects from all these new medications, plus the new medication and the new treatments. So, a lot of new things at once, and I don't know how my body will react. So all we can do right now is just wait and see. So that was pretty much it with my doctor. Then I met with the physical therapist. So we did a bunch of exercises. I went on the treadmill for a bit, just kind of like test my strength at the moment, my endurance, stuff like that. And, based on that, she gave me some exercises I can start doing every day, as well as recommendations for walking, like, speed and time and stuff like that. So I can start getting back into shape without pushing myself too hard. So I'm going to start doing that probably tomorrow. And then finally, the ergotherapist, which is similar to the physiotherapist, but it's more of like everyday stuff. It's less about the, physical body. It's more about like, what can we do to make your everyday activities better, more enjoyable, easier for you? And, I explained the situation once again, as I did with everyone. And her recommendation was like, you've been doing a lot of removing activities. I used to go like for walks in the park. I love to be in nature. I love to be outside and work out and do sports and hang out with friends. And it's like physically activating my body really helps me, like, I don't know, it's just fun. Like, obviously the release of endorphins and just activating the body, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel more alive. And, at the end of the day, it also helps you sleep. And being in nature is very calming and has that soothing effect and everything. And just kind of like always cleared my mind and made me feel good. But because of, difficulty breathing and the coughing and the fact that it's winter and it's cold outside, it's like I've been very limited in what I can do. And she was like, let's try to identify exactly all the benefits you got from all those activities that you did and find other activities to replace them so you can get those same benefits while you're going through this period. And even though it's like, yes, I completely understand the logic behind that, normally I would agree with her. It's just like at the point where I am right now, for the time being, it's just things are too intense, too overwhelming. I simply do not have the strength to force myself to do extra activities. I can barely handle what I'm doing right now, which is basically waking up, forcing myself to eat, forcing myself to, eat lunch, and, forcing myself to eat as much as I can during the afternoon while trying to balance not throwing up. While having like, and then at near the end of the day, it's always like coughing gets more intense, breathing gets more intense. I get more exhausted. If I had, let's say, a medical appointment during the day, it just completely wipes me out. And by the end of the day, I'm so exhausted that it's like, I can barely think. I can barely like do anything physically. Just the act of texting and thinking is like overwhelming. And it's like, I just pretty much, keep going until I'm completely exhausted and I can't take it. And then I go to bed. And sometimes it's like, yeah, that means that I woke up at like 8, sometimes 9 in the morning, and I go to bed at like 5:30, 6 at night. So it's like I barely have the strength to do that. Don't ask me to add anything to that. Not to say like, oh, I've given up, I'm never going to be able to do any of those things again. That's not the type of person I am. I just feel like right now, all I can do, all I can handle is living one day at a time, and that's it. In the future, as you know, I start being able to walk again, be able to work out again, hopefully the appetite gets better, I can eat more, I get stronger, and so on and so forth. Things will get better, and then I can start thinking of what are the activities I would like to do throughout the day to make my life more enjoyable. It's just at the moment I do not have the energy to do that. And that's why I'm like, hey, I appreciate all your suggestions, everything. I agree with you. It does make sense. But for now, I just cannot do that. It's not something that I have the strength to do. And I just sense that for now, the best thing for me is to just live day to day, do the best that I can, and let whatever's meant to happen happen. So it's not like, when I say stuff like that, especially to my wife, people's reaction seems to be like, oh, he's giving up, he's not trying anymore. It's like, no, that's not the case. I still do whatever I can to, make my life as enjoyable as possible, to alleviate the symptoms and the side effects as much as possible, to strengthen my body as much as possible. It's just, I'm very, very weak at the moment. So it's like I also need to respect my body to a certain degree, because otherwise it's like, it doesn't matter what I do. If I end up burning myself out, it's not going to help me. It's going to make things worse. So it's like I need to kind of balance trying to push myself to get better while at the same time respecting myself, and just making sure that's like, I make the most of it and do what feels right for me at the moment inside. And that's what I've been trying to do with everything. So that was pretty much the gist of it. Since I did have an appointment today, kind of wiped me out, and I just did record 3 videos in a row. So it is more physically demanding for me. So I just want to quickly end this here. But before I do, just wanted to mention, if you want to support me, best way would be through the GoFundMe. Right now, I'd recommend maybe wait a couple days. I'll give you an update on that when everything's officially resolved for that. In the meantime, you can donate directly on YouTube if you want to, using Super Thanks. And depending on what people think, potentially I'll be adding shortly a subscription to the channel. We'll see how that goes. And then finally, if you know anyone in the YouTube or entertainment or podcast or any of those types of industry, anyone who could potentially help me spread my message to a wider audience, to really counterbalance the negativity we've had recently of the haters on the channel and them attacking the GoFundMe and everything, and really be able to counterbalance that and just bring more good and positivity in the world. Please let me know if you know anyone like that. Put me in contact with them. I'm going to find a better way to make it easier for you, but for now, the simplest way to do that, just go to the description either of the video or of the channel and click on the link to my author website. And on there, you can just send me an email through the contact page. So that's pretty much been the update. This is almost a 20-minute video, 3rd video of the day. Sun is starting to get in my eyes, so let's just end this here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of the YouTube family. I love you all, and let's find out if I missed the button. I did.